Hi there. Welcome to segment 2 of today's discussion on external influences in higher education. This is the second of 3 PowerPoints for this week. Ladeka and Stark's figures 2.3 and 2.4 in the textbook show the periods of emphasis on access and how they changed, as well as the rise in the number of bachelor's degrees conferred over time. Up until World War II, the typical student was primarily residential and full-time. Urban institutions served commuter and part-time students with evening classes for working adults. World War II was identified as the most significant catalyst in diversifying college student attendance nationwide, according to Ladeka and Stark on page 40. The GI Bill was passed by Congress and resulted in 2.2 million veterans returning to college with government financial aid to complete their education. This left fewer spaces for women in higher education, and their numbers decreased. The 1947 Truman Report, entitled Higher Education for Democracy, advocated that citizens were entitled to higher education regardless of their ability to afford it, and it paved the way for the Higher Education Act of 1965. This act created grant and loan programs for financial aid for students with demonstrated need. This also allowed students the freedom to choose their college and paved the way for federal influence in higher education for years to come. When we think of evolving learners and the legislation or active events that really made it possible, we need to recognize these 3 things. The 1954 Brown v. Topeka Board of Education case was a landmark case which declared racial segregation illegal and theoretically increased college access for African Americans. In the 1960s, civil rights and the women movement contributed to growth and diversity in higher education enrollments. And finally, the significant growth in 1984 to 2004 saw minorities' numbers rise as they grew to be higher than those of whites during this time period as far as increases go. The evolution of college students can also be portrayed when we think of technology and how quickly it has advanced. Please read through this infographic. Just click on the link and look at the 5 decades. Think about the rapid changes in technology during the 5 decades that are represented. In your opinion, which one had the most significant change for college students and why? Jot down your responses and then proceed to the next slide when you're ready. This infographic also gives you a picture of today's college students. America's post-secondary student population is now more diverse than ever, as represented by the breakdown of race on the far right-hand lower corner. Many students attend school while working part-time or even full-time. You can see that in the pink area designated with employment statistics. Some are raising children while in school, and in many cases, they're financially independent. There's no one-size-fits-all path to or through college, and we need to plan our education policies accordingly. What would America look like as 100 college students? Well, this infographic is from the Gates Foundation, and take a look and see for yourself. But note that this infographic used statistics from 2012 to 2014. Would one for 2016 look extremely different? And if so, how? Take a minute to think about that and study this graphic, and when you're ready, please proceed to the next slide. Now that we've talked about the evolution of today's college students as learners, how do we measure learning in education? Well, most high schools and colleges typically use the Carnegie Unit and the credit hour. Please take a few minutes to read and comprehend the definitions that are presented here. This definition is what drives credit hour requirements here at Lynchburg College, as well as institutions of higher ed throughout the United States. Ongoing debate between the two, general education versus specialization, often occurs within a single institution. There is no centralized agency to coordinate higher education curricula, but typically what you find is that general education and specialization combined equal a 4-year degree with approximately 120 credits. 1/3 of those credits, or 40, are in general education for a bachelor's in arts or a bachelor in science degree. 2/3 of the credits, or 80, are divided between the major, which is specialization, and the electives. In 2-year colleges, we see that the curriculum typically equals 60 credits. That includes a general education segment, a major specialization, as well as electives. The core curriculum is also synonymous with general education. It's based on a belief that all students have a common experience expressed as distribution requirements, where those students must fulfill requirements in specified areas, but sometimes have a choice within a range to fulfill those requirements. The core curriculum aims to provide base knowledge and skills in and beyond college. It provides foundation skills and knowledge for further study. It also serves as an introduction to other fields of study. The amount of general education required for graduation has varied over time and still varies somewhat among colleges. It's interesting to note some of the changes over time. In 1967, 43% of the courses taken by the average college student were in general education. In 1976, that number dropped to 33%. 1988, it rose back up to 38%. Math requirements have increased over time, while English composition has been a constant requirement and the most common course taken by bachelor's recipients to date. When we talk about specialization, it includes 4 types. The first is the academic major, which is preparation for graduate school and/or employment in the same field. It often includes courses at the introduction, intermediate, and advanced levels. It may require a thesis, a senior paper, or a culminating experience to synthesize knowledge. Pre-professional specialization is typically in fields of medicine, law, and dentistry. It often includes field work for real-world experiences. Interdisciplinary majors combines 2 or more areas of study and usually includes a culminating project. The general education or liberal arts major is much broader in scope. Okay, this is the activity for this PowerPoint session. Think back for a minute to your assignment in segment 1 of this course. Chances are your comparison of general education requirements at 2 higher education institutions yielded some subtle and not so subtle findings. Were these surprising to you or as you expected? Recent proposed legislation in Virginia adds additional focus on bachelor's degree credit hour requirements and curriculum. Here we see a higher education external influence in action. Please review the details and progress of House Bill 229 and access the PDF, which includes the full text of the proposed legislation. You may use this link that is provided. Following your reading of the bill, please post your comments on the forum and explain why you do or do not support House Bill 229. Then proceed to PowerPoint 3 for this week's discussion. Thank you.